Is Canada meeting its $10 a day childcare target? Can the federal NDP rise from the ashes? Well, joining me to dive into these topics and more is our City Talks panel. We have Sharan Kaur, Jeff Rutledge, and Erin Morrison. Thanks very much. Erin, we're going to start with you and childcare. A new report card finds that all of the provinces are not going to meet the targets, 5 in particular, including Alberta and Ontario. Who's to blame for that?
The goal is right, the execution has been wrong, and both premiers and the federal government share blame for this.
Okay.
Federal government put money on the table, kind of one-time money in a one-time contract, and then walked away, whereas the premiers signed for that money and then didn't hold up their end of the bargain. And as a result, we have childcare that's too expensive, not $10 a day, $20, $30 a day or more. And we have not enough childcare spaces. In Ontario, there are families looking to get on a $10 a day childcare list, even though it's not $10 yet, and they wait months and months, if not years, for a space.
Definitely, and I know, Sharan, personally, in talking to childcare advocates, some daycares can open 5 days a week, and they say to parents, you can only do 2 or 3, maybe 4 if you're lucky.
Yeah, so the problem with programs that get implemented from a federal level like this, where there's different jurisdictions involved, I think everyone the execution falls flat because the feds are not the ones who are running these daycares either, right? So provinces are signing up and not signing up, and then it trickles down to the municipalities and who subscribes to them. So I think the idea and the concept of it is so wonderful, and we need it because daycare, childcare is so expensive. But unless there's a mechanism of enforcement or how is it mandatory?
Which the feds should be doing?
I think it's multi-jurisdictional. And this is where the whole multi-jurisdictions and having a federation and provinces become complicated. But I think that it's unfortunate. But I think there's equal blame across to put on multiple jurisdictions.
Jeff, let's talk about cuts. A memo went out yesterday to federal ministers that they have to cut 7.5%. How is that going to be done? Mark Carney needs to find some money so he can pay for his promises with defense, for example. How's he going to do that without gutting programs?
Well, I think it's pretty clear over the last decade or so that there's been significant bloat in government. That's one of the greatest criticisms that's been leveled by Conservatives against the former Trudeau government. And so I think it's clear that there is money to be saved. The total number of government employees has ballooned, especially in the last 5 years. And I think there's an opportunity to right-size government. That doesn't mean necessarily that critical programs need to be canceled, but what it does mean is that difficult decisions need to be made about the things that we need as Canadians versus the things that we want as Canadians. And I think it's going to upset a lot of folks that some of the particular things they like might not be there, but the things that they need ideally will be.
But where would you start? I mean, I know it's not a fair comparison, but look at Trump and his cuts, not executed wisely from what we're seeing, and having some catastrophic consequences. Where would you start?
Yeah, well, I think, again, at a base level, I think there has been bloat in terms of tasks associated with the number of people that are working in the government. Fundamentally,
Sharon's nodding. Erin,
well,
you're not.
I don't agree. This government has also been taken to task on spending billions of dollars on consultants doing work that staff could be doing. We could be using the staff that are there. We could be using them better. And instead, we spend extra money on consultants. Get rid of the consultants, keep the staff. If you are going to cut 7.5% across the board, and remember, we still have to find $150 billion for defense, that's healthcare, that's education, that's people's pensions, that's every single service we count on as Canadians being gutted so that all the money can be shuffled over to defense and to pet projects. It's dangerous, it's scary. Job losses alone will be problematic for the country, let alone the service cuts.
Sharan.
So I value the idea and the concern around services getting cut, like Erin just said, but I think Jeff and I will agree on this, is that there is bloat. And I just speak from my own experience, having worked in the government. I'm probably one of those few rare Liberals who are more centre-right leaning, who kind of understand that consultants, I agree. I think we don't need the number of consultants they get in there. But let's be real. There are skill sets that not every public servant is able to fulfill. And that's a bigger picture. I personally don't think the federal government should be one of the largest employers in the country. Attrition is not going to be enough to bring that down. I do think that there are a lot of people doing a lot of tasks that don't necessarily bring value.
Okay. Let's talk about Pierre Poilievre in Alberta at the Calgary Stampede, and he was rather spicy taking on Mark Carney. Jeff, did you like his tone?
Yeah, I think he's back in his groove, which is being on the campaign trail, I think, is valuable for him, and to being able to find his voice again, especially in what is a very, very noisy political environment right now. So whether, it's the tariffs to the south, or whether it's us as a country trying to figure out what the plan is moving forward to tackle our economic challenges, he needs to find his voice in that space.
Did he hit the right tone?
I don't think he hit the right tone necessarily, but I think it's a weird tone that we're seeing here. Like, he was this new person. He even had a mild twang in his accent that he was kind of throwing out there. But he's been so, I would say, demure for the last little bit. But I think
almost invisible, I would say.
For
He
the most
hasn't
part.
been,
He doesn't have a seat. He's kind of this invisible leader. And part of me feels bad for him, because it's kind of sad, right? It's kind of sad to be going from this guy hyper partisan, lots of rhetoric, to being invisible. And he's starting to get that back. I think it's not fully there, and he's getting his groove.
Does he have to change his tone more, Erin?
Yes.
Did you like what you saw, or is this just who he is?
You got to be a little bit spicy to catch attention, especially when you don't have a seat in the House. There's not an election coming up. You're sagging in the polls. All of these things are true about Pierre Poilievre, so he has to be spicy. But the lesson he needed to learn from that campaign is that women do not like him. He's mean. He's snarky. He's condescending. He needs to get all of that out of his daily rhetoric and be a little bit more charming.
And while I have you, I'm going to put you on the spot. The NDP, they have to find a new leader, and it turns out nobody knows who the potential candidates are. How are they going to rise from the ashes?
No big surprise there. First of all, the NDP is doing everything right. They have put a robust system in place to review what happened in the last election. They've put a robust system in place to build the rules for the leadership race. They're doing things right. I'm happy to see it. Of course, nobody knows the potential candidates yet. I mean, folks didn't know who Pierre Poilievre was before he ran.
Fair. And I should just tell people watching that you worked with Jagmeet Singh.
I did
You were
indeed,
at his
yes.
side through the whole last few years. Do you like any potential candidates, or is this just going to be a party that's in the ashes for the next 4, 5, 6 more years?
Oh, I have a soft spot for a lot of the potential candidates. I think they're good people who, their hearts are in the right place. They're very smart. They have good values. And we don't know yet who will actually sign the paperwork and run.
Jeff, can they rebuild anytime soon?
I think that they're really going to struggle. I think back to the time when Jack Layton was leading the party, and there was a potential for them to form government, and that was a reality at the time. Clearly, fundraising has struggled. I think the principled values which they purport to defend have evaporated over time, and I think in large part because the Liberals ate their breakfast.
And the Conservatives have taken over a lot of Labour, and the Liberals sort of outlefted the NDP. Are they fighting for relevance?
Moved quite far to the right. We're talking about 7.5% cuts to public services. The Liberals have moved to the right. The Liberals are talking about privatization. There's clear running room for New Democrats to occupy the space as the party of the left.
Sharon, I'll give you the last word.
I do think that there's a world in which rebuilding a party is always hard. We're seeing that here in Ontario with the provincial Liberals. It's just been a cycle of that. But I think a lot of it has to be with, yes, I think there's people like myself on the Liberal front who've kind of moved to one side. It doesn't mean that our values are different, but I think that NDP voters and the NDP party also have to realign themselves to see what do we stand for, to kind of bring those people back into it. I like to consider the NDP as the underdog in some cases, because their base is very ideological, and they will always come back. I think we just went through a really weird election where the Trump tariffs and all this came into place. I think it depends on the leader, and I know there's people who can come up.
All right, on that note, thank you all very much for joining us. Lots more good conversations to come.